We now have 68 models here in the U.S. and we're introducing some new products here at ConExpo. 11 new machines here at ConExpo and 30 new launches this year.
The challenge that especially Chinese brands went through in Australia, the dealers were very small, usually customers who are adding on a Chinese manufacturer onto existing product lines that they already have. But that sort of consolidated a fair bit, and now it's dedicated dealers. With the dealer I have, he was the first one who really supported the product. And I think that that's possibly the most important. It's a crucial part of building a brand.
My father worked for Caterpillar, and I grew up in Peoria. So
you actually grew up in Peoria?
I did. I grew up in Peoria, and it's a great place, and Caterpillar's a great company, and my father had a long career there. And after a couple years of banking, when I joined CAT, I started moving around, lived in Florida, Texas twice, Dallas, San Antonio, lived in the UK, like I mentioned. So I've had my chance to see many parts of the US.
Hello everyone, I've actually got an exciting guest here today with me, David Nicoll, CEO of SANY America, and we're here to talk all things ConExpo, all things David, and all things SANY. Thank you for coming in, David.
Thank you, it's a pleasure to be here, and we're excited to be at ConExpo. SANY America is celebrating our 20th anniversary this week at ConExpo, and ConExpo is expected to be the largest ConExpo ever in 2026.
Yeah, I have heard that as well. I'm doing a little bit of work for AEM, the people who are putting it on, and they're very excited with the amount of tickets sold and the amount of engagement. And SANY actually has one of the biggest stands here, I believe, in this section. I think that you've got some of the most square footage.
I believe so. I've been told that we have the 5th largest booth at ConExpo. We have 34 machines that we are showing, as well as some other areas in the booth that we could talk about as we go. I'd like to start with just a comment about safety. SANY America, SANY Group, really AEM, and all the OEMs and leaders in the industry really have to take safety as their highest priority. And it's one of SANY America's core values. And as leaders in our industry, we need to make sure that we keep our employees, contractors, dealers, the folks who are working around safe. And we are introducing our new Think Safety First initiative here at ConExpo for SANY America. I was with a customer last week, and they were commenting about how it's nice that our telehandler products have reversing cameras standard on a machine. So we're trying to invest, but I'd ask the leaders in our industry just to continue to make sure that everybody goes home safely. We had some recordable injuries in our factory last year, and our goal every year is for that number to be 0.
Yeah. Zero lost time is what we call it in Australia.
Yes.
Lost time from injuries, and that's what every company wants.
Well, thanks for letting me start with that, James. Be safe out there.
Yeah, no problem at all. Tell us a little bit about you, because you have a great story, which I think that the listeners, when they get into it, will absolutely find incredible because of your background in the industry and what you've done. Tell us where you're from. Start wherever you like in your life, and we'll go forward from there.
Yeah, well, I've been at SANY for coming up on 2 years now, and it's a pleasure to be here. I have really enjoyed my time at SANY, and SANY America has a lot of momentum in North America. But my start, I worked for Caterpillar for 28 years. So I know my way around a tractor, James.
Yeah, I was I like to do a little bit of data look at before I come in, so that I don't look like a complete dill on my podcast. But I saw you've had experience a lot across all different sections of the industry. It's not just earth moving equipment. You did wheel loaders, you did a little bit of roading, and so that was interesting to see.
Yeah, my CAT career was really divided into 3 sections. A third of my time I spent in sales, marketing, dealer development. So, I spent time as a field rep and spent time working with our dealers and working with cat dealers and understanding voice of the customer. I spent about a third of my career in cat's engine business. That included 3 years living in the UK, which working as a director at Perkins Engines. And then about a third of my career on the machine business, dozers and wheel loaders mostly. And during that time, my last job at Caterpillar was vice president of medium wheel loaders.
Okay.
And that,
There's a bit of a resume there.
yeah. So I worked on the Cat brand, the Perkins brand, and then also, we were talking before the show about China. I also worked on the SEM brand, which is a brand that Caterpillar wholly owns that's based in Qingdao, China. And so I worked in Qingzhou on the SEM brand, as well as the Cat brand in China, Suzhou, Wuxi, etc. So spent a lot of time in China during my Caterpillar career, 20 trips. And
Interesting. A lot of people don't like to talk about that sort of part, but it's interesting that you'd spend so much time in China when there's factories also in Peoria, Decatur,
right.
all of those sort of places. You wouldn't think that they're over there. But, I know that when I went there, that it's a little bit surreal to think about just how many of the components are actually created there. Like the Cummins motors are mainly made in China now. The pump components that are made even for Kawasaki and all of the other ones, they all come out of Chinese factories at some point, which is really challenging to, think about that. Even though you might have a manufacturing facility in one place, all of the parts that are coming in, it's more of an assembly factory with manufacturing happening in China, which is great for SANY because it would be, it's where they can have all of their concentration of all of their parts and get a lot of cheap sort of logistics happening. Is I think
certainly, SANY has a big footprint in China, and we always welcome our customers to visit our global factories. Currently, we're manufacturing machines at SANY Group in China, Indonesia, India, Turkey, Germany, in the U.S., United States, and we can talk about that in Peachtree City, Georgia, which is near Atlanta.
You got a manufacturing facility there?
Yes.
What does that manufacture?
So we are manufacturing wheel loaders and hydraulic excavators in Georgia, in Peachtree City, USA. So that's also our administrative headquarters. So we've got parts distribution, an R&D center on 230 acres. I like to invite customers there because we have a big demonstration and R&D site where we run machines and also invite customers to come in and test our machines. Georgia's home. Alicia and I moved to Georgia a couple years ago, and we love it. It's great weather.
Where were you originally from?
So my father worked for Caterpillar, and I grew up in Peoria. So
you actually grew up in Peoria?
I did. I grew up in Peoria, and
holy shit,
and had it's a great place, and Caterpillar's a great company, and my father had a long career there. And when I after a couple of years in banking, when I joined CAT, I started moving around. Lived in Florida, Texas twice, Dallas, San Antonio. Lived in the UK, like I mentioned. So I've had my chance to see many parts of the US.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
to start off there. And so
my son is.
How old is your son?
He stayed in Texas, so he's working for Lockheed Martin in Fort Worth. So yeah, I still have some Texas roots there after living there twice. So
perfect. And what is your journey? You went to school, and then did you go to university and do all of that? And you said banking?
Yeah. So I went to Bradley University, which is also in Peoria. It wasn't my intention to stay in Peoria after my schooling and go to university, I was looking across the Midwest. But James, they paid me to play golf, so I went to Bradley University and played golf. And
Played golf.
yeah, if there's any golfers out there, I'm trying to keep up with my game. It's hard with this job, but
Wow.
yeah, and
But for the golfers out there, because there definitely is some golf nuts who listen to me, I know because some of them are my friends.
Yeah.
What's your handicap? I think that. Oh, he's got to check it. He's got to bring some big ones.
So yeah, we might as well get it exactly. I went to Scottsdale over the winter and played with some college buddies. Keep up my game. It's 5.3.
5.3. Not bad.
Yeah.
Pretty
So, so Bradley University is a great Midwestern university. Great college basketball if you're into Division I basketball. So, and when I graduated there, the job market was tough, and I went into a management training program at a bank, and did that for a few years before Cat recruited me. So
I find it difficult. I talk quite a fair bit on this podcast about the market and about how when a depressed market is out there, it can actually really make some challenges in terms of, building a career. It sort of puts it a little bit of takes the boil out of it, turns the gas down on what you're able to achieve.
Well, one of the things I like to tell people is when I was in the UK, I felt like I needed to continue my learning. So I had an opportunity to go to the University of Cambridge. So I did that for 2 years. And, I think in our industry as an OEM, it's good to have a global perspective. And, I got a lot out of having school colleagues and, that were in my cohort, that lived in China and that lived in the Middle East and lived in Switzerland and Germany and South Africa. We had somebody flying in from Australia. And it's really, more so in the UK than in the United States. It's easy to form friendships from people around the world, and that was really valuable in my development. As I learned to become a leader.
My brother works in a global role for a big company, and he went to UK, very similar, and then Singapore, and then Istanbul for the. It gives a different sort of perspective of that there is a global market that you're playing in, rather than, like I just work in a couple of states back at home, and there's just such a big wide world out there that you've got to think about. But the market is very interesting, and I want to dive a little bit into that. What do you think about the American market? Because I talk a lot about the Australian market and what it's doing, because we have a lot of investment in infrastructure, but the government sort of rise and fall with how much they're putting into it, which very much impacts what our ability to win jobs and stuff. We need a lot of work to be coming through the market. What's America like right now? Is America going well, or?
It is. I mean, we're forecasting 2026 to be slightly up over 2025, and that's based on infrastructure, data centers, some renewable energy projects. So we, the market is relatively stable, I would call it. With some upside. We certainly see some upside for our business at SANY. As we continue to penetrate the market. For 2027, we continue to see potential growth. We think that the capital investment and the broader economic expansion will continue to improve in 2027. So, we are relatively bullish over the next few years through the end of the decade. There's been a little bit of a housing slowdown recently in the U.S. The current administration is trying to drive down some interest rates, which will help. We've got a wide range of customers at SANY, and we think the guys that are doing residential construction with a few small machines are just as important as the big guys, and so there's still a housing shortage in the U.S., but trying to get that value proposition right for the home buyer is something that the administration's working on. So
we have such difficulties in Australia. It seems like a lot of the policies that they bring out actually make the housing affordability worse rather than better, because they only look at, it's got to be this balance between the supply and demand, rather than just looking at either the supply or the demand. You have to really look at both and put in policies for both. But the government and the interest rates and all of that sort of stuff sometimes don't get that balance right. I know in Australia we're talking about building 1 million homes or something like that. That's what they say. We're going to build 1 million homes. And then 2 years later they say, how many have you built? And they're like, 6. and they go, well, you're 999,000 short. How are we going to do that? Oh, we'll lower this or bring up that. And it just doesn't quite seem to work all the time.
In America, one of the issues that lower interest rates will unlock is the fact that during the late teens and early COVID, the interest rates were really low. So American home buyers either locked in a lower interest rate or refinanced to a lower interest rate. And now maybe their family has grown, or maybe it's time for retirement and a relocation, but they don't want to get, American home buyers don't want to give up that low interest rate that they may have had at 3%, to buy a new home at 6%. So I think there's still a housing shortage in the U.S. I'm confident that we have residential housing policies that will help. Lower interest rates will unlock some of those people that want to move. And I think that will work itself out in the next couple of years.
So you mentioned before that it was a 20-year anniversary of SANY. And you've been here coming up to a couple of years now?
18 months, coming up on 2 years.
And so how are you going to penetrate that market more? Because that is something that a lot of brands have struggled with. There's a vice grip on the market from some of your competition that is challenging to be let go. Challenging to try and make them let go. What do you see as what you're going to do and how you're going to do it to sort of penetrate that market as much as you can?
Well, I think there's 2 major components to that. One, we have to have world-class engineered machines with great quality. And we believe that we're taking those steps. We offer for many of our construction machines a standard 5-year, 5,000-hour warranty. That's an industry-leading warranty. Comes standard on the machine. You don't have to buy an extra package for that. It just comes with it. And 2, we have to have great product support.
The dealer network.
Yes.
It ends up being everything. I think that SANY and the machine and what you guys build sells the first one.
Yeah.
And then the dealer sells every machine after that with how they supported the first one.
Yeah.
You can have the best machine in the market, but they all end up breaking down. They do.
That's right. So maybe I can expand on those 2 areas.
Yeah, please do.
On the machine side, we continue to expand our product line. And that takes time. It takes time to make sure that we have the machine ready for North America customers, right? First of all, there's some regulations around the machines, whether it's safety, technology, emissions, the machine has to be ready for North America.
Different states have different rules over here, I believe, with some of like the emission standards and stuff like that. Do you find challenges in dealing with that?
Not so much. Right now, sometimes California and California Air Resources Board, it's short for CARB, and the EPA have a disagreement on a path forward. But today they're aligned, right? And Canada typically follows. So from an emission standpoint, however, sometimes a local city will have an emissions issue where they'll say you can only run the machines, during these hours, or there's some sound regulations in a city. So we kind of watch all the regulations, around the country. Big picture, EPA and CARB are currently aligned. We'll see what Tier 5 looks like here in North America. I was on the AEM emissions, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers emissions strategy committee, and we looked at some of those things. So there's work happening that AEM is making sure that we're advocating for policies that make sense for both clean air and making sure that they're aligned across the countries, or Canada, U.S., and the States. So, back to the products. We now have 68 models here in the U.S. So, we want to serve the entire product line that our customers need. And, we're introducing some new products here at ConExpo. 11 new machines here at ConExpo and 30 new launches this year. From a dealer perspective, we have to have a great dealer network, and we're investing in dealers. A lot of folks may not know that we have 72 dealers now in North America with 191 locations, and that number is growing. We also serve multiple markets, not only construction, but we also have a crane division and a crane market and crane dealers, a port division and port dealers. So our dealer network doesn't necessarily carry every machine, but we've got a big construction dealer network. Mm-hmm. We're excited about some new crane dealer that we have in the United States, and we're progressing in those different industries.
It's the challenge that especially Chinese brands went through in Australia, which has actually been been interesting to watch how it's progressed, because the big challenge was the dealer. Because the dealers were very small, usually customers who are adding on a Chinese manufacturer onto existing product lines that they already have. Like someone will, I don't know, sell rollers from somewhere and then say, "Oh, I'll tack on," selling Chinese excavators. But that's sort of consolidated a fair bit, and now it's dedicated dealers, who actually are quite savvy businessmen, most of them, and not just looking to add another range, but actually become the SANY dealer for, estate, and service all of that. So the parts availability, which wasn't there, ends up actually coming. They get, proper service, service trucks, servicemen, to get that. I know with the dealer I have, he was the first one who really supported the product. And I think that that's possibly the most important. It's a crucial part of building a brand,
It is. And we just had our national dealer meeting about a month ago. We didn't want to, conflict with the ConExpo meetings and try to have it in Vegas. We had it about a month ago, and our dealers talk about how important it is to be there the next day, today or tomorrow, and have that sort of support. One of the reasons I was late for our meeting today is I was meeting with one of our large dealers, SANY, brand only, exclusive SANY, and they're growing. They're growing fast. They're in 2 states today. They're going to add a 3rd state here this quarter. I was visiting last week. I was on a little bit of a road trip before coming to Las Vegas, visiting with one of our new dealers. They have 25 service technicians in field service trucks. And, they don't have a lot of technicians in their shop. They just believe in putting technicians on the road, and so we are looking for SANY dealers and building the capability of our current dealer network when it comes to parts and service. And we're trying to do our part too. For example, we have 4 parts distribution centers here in North America: Georgia, North Carolina, California, and Ontario. And we continue to expand. You'll see the motto outside. We want parts on the shelf, right? We want to make sure that we can get you a part tomorrow if it's an emergency. So we want to have parts on the shelf. And so we've got processes that all manufacturers have to make sure that when we introduce a new model or a new product, that before we start selling that model, we've got the parts on the shelf. And then from a service standpoint, you'll see here in the booth we're launching our reman product line. Again, that just helps get customers back up and running at a lower cost. And so we've got some reman engines and axles.
So what does that actually look like? Because I see that most of your motors are, let's say, Cummins. Yeah, so you're a licensed reman, or do you send it to Cummins for you guys to actually remake them? and be able to do a swap and change out of the motors. Is that right?
So we for Cummins, we use genuine Cummins parts to reman that motor, and we have our own specifications. We work with our partners to make sure that reman engine meets all of the Cummins specs and our own specs before it goes back into a machine.
One of the great things, that one of your competition do is that they can have like a midlife change out, and often it meant that their machines were able to run for many more hours than everyone else. They'd pull everything apart, a major component or a half-life rebuild or whatever they're going to call it. Is that something that you guys are looking at? Because I know that out there you're now doing axles, you're doing hydraulic pumps, you're doing, I think that he was talking about the hydraulic system, like the valve banks and everything else like that you guys are actually looking to do this similar sort of thing, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, today, and it depends on the machine. So a small hydraulic excavator, a 35-ton machine, that Yanmar engine will never run out, wear out. So it's going to run, and for the life of the machine. But for the bigger machines, we've got a 50-ton excavator, a 75-ton excavator, a 330-ton crane, that we're introducing here. For these bigger machines, we're using reman to get started, and make sure that we're following the genuine SANY branded parts and repair options that our customers expect. Yes, for a full machine rebuild, some of our dealers can do that work, and we'll work into that over time.
It'll be interesting space to see because not many people do that remanufacturing sort of stuff at the moment. I think it's got to be a really smart thing because it does. Not only are you providing, and I don't want to make it sound like a sales pitch but of course at some point I have to be sitting here talking the good parts about it because I've bought enough of them. But at some point you've got a really good warranty that lasts a long time, and you've got a backup that says that you're going to be able to rebuild it at some point of its life cycle.
Yeah.
That's standing by the machine at some point, or standing behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, and really, we want to help manage the whole life cycle of the machine, right? And so, we've got a high value machine with a long warranty, and we want to make sure that product support, one, keeps the customer up and running while he's working throughout the life cycle of the machine, and two, the machine has a higher residual value when he goes to trade it or sell it. And so that's why the product support capability of not only SANY but our dealer network is so important.
Does the market impact with the because I know I found this when I was buying Japanese. So I bought Japanese and the yen was very bad. Does the market there start to impact the price of all of those things? Is that something that you have to look at and deal with a bit? The laugh says that maybe you do, because I know that when the yen, I went on a trip to Japan and the yen wasn't doing very good, and the dealer was really in a pinch, in a little bit because of how he'd purchased and then what had happened. So is that something that you guys look at?
It is, and look, 2025 in the United States, let's just say the tariff landscape was dynamic. But back to the product support commitment, I mean, there were it wasn't all year, but there were some weeks, months, where we were paying 100% tariff, to get an aftermarket part.
Dynamic
to get to our customer, and we didn't take 100 or 150% price increase. We just absorbed that, got the part to our customer, and get them back up and running. And with the hope and the forecast that the tariff situation will work out over time.
What is the tariff situation now? I'm from Australia, so like we had some tariffs. I think Louis put on our beef or on our wine. I don't know. It seemed like every day there was a different thing that something was being. We're not going to take. Coffee beans are going to have a 75% tariff. Yeah. Have the tariffs changed?
Oh, they have recently. So the new tariffs that came in 2025 are formerly called IEEPA tariffs. Sometimes they're referred to as reciprocal tariffs. And those tariffs varied by country and by amount. So anywhere from maybe 10 to 50% by country in 2025. The U.S. Supreme Court had a ruling a couple weeks ago that kind of changed the tariff landscape for those IEEPA or reciprocal tariffs. And so a new tariff came in called 122 at just 10% globally. So regardless of the country, it's a new 10% tariff. There are some existing tariffs. We call it 232, which is on steel and aluminum, and 301, which is a longer-term legacy tariff, that are still in place, plus the new 122 tariffs. That may sound complicated, but generally today, OEMs in our industry are paying a 10% tariff and a steel tariff.
That's a perfect answer. It seems like it.
I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C.
I'm thinking that the man knows a little bit about tariffs when we sit here.
We advocate for free trade. Caterpillar taught me that. And when we can't have free trade, we advocate for fair trade. And that's what we're advocating for. And we're also advocating for incentives to manufacture here in the U.S. So, we wrote a position or white paper that we circulate in Washington, D.C. with government officials, on incentives to manufacture in the U.S. That's our goal. We want to, we've got a manufacturing footprint today that we want to expand. And that's the goal for our competitors as well.
Yeah.
Look, we want a strong U.S. manufacturing and supply chain base. You mentioned it earlier in our conversation, which is sometimes it's difficult to get all the components that are needed to build a piece of construction equipment, a tractor, from U.S. Manufacturers. So you may have to go, to Brazil or Germany, to China or India for hydraulics, small diesel engines, some powertrain components, some electronic components, wiring harnesses, or display screens. There's a wide range of components that can be difficult to get in every country, right?
Australia barely has any manufacturing left. Like, it has mostly been offshore.
Yeah.
We don't have the market depth to really need big manufacturing facilities compared to some of the places that are pumping out, a car every 8 seconds.
Right.
And being able to ship it around the world. Australia's not in a great place for shipping, not in a great place for the market demand internally as well, with only 30 million people. It makes it challenging for us to, have manufacturing or our supply chain actually in Australia. And so we've come to accept the fact that everything is built overseas. And so we're all okay with importing pretty much everything that's built. I know in America, a lot of my friends that I have over here, it's a little bit of a different perspective on that. Like, they love to buy American made. And I'd love to buy Australian made, but it's almost impossible. Do you find that as well? Like, the American made stuff is, like the wheel loaders, you have a good advantage over some of your other competition because you said you built them in Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in our industry, there is some preference to American manufacturing, or in some cases, you and I talked about it over our coffee this morning. Some preference for American brands. But I think that is fading away. I think customers want a productive machine that's high quality and a great dealer network, so they can build American infrastructure. It takes, in order to build a highway or an airport or a data center in the United States, it takes a wide range of equipment and a wide range of contractors to complete those jobs, and a wide range of the channel of how they're going to get that equipment. They may buy the equipment, they may rent the equipment, they may have a rental lease option. Maybe this data center project will lead to the next one, maybe it won't. I mean, one of the things that we're working on at SANY America is we're launching SANY Finance in 2026.
That is actually one of the. I've started to use AI recently. About a week I've had it, so I'm pretty keen on explaining to everyone how great and technologically advanced I am. But when I was putting together these podcasts and coming over here, and I haven't had as much interaction with some of the people, or I'm talking to guys or girls from around the world. I'm like, how am I going to get my questions, and how am I going to get what some of the framework on these podcasts is going to be over here? And so I put it into AI. One of the challenges it said that SANY was running into was the fact that some of your competition offer some fantastic finances, and that a pointy question would be, what is SANY doing about offering finance on equipment? And it just that was this morning. Look, I've got it written down here. To put you on the spot, and it turns out that you've actually came about and said this is an issue we've had. This is our solution for it. And what does that look like for you guys?
So, from a program perspective, we've got some great financing offers and have, which is 0 for 60 months, which customers can take advantage of. What we're working with launching SANY Finance is just making that financing a little bit easier. We've partnered with a technology firm, and now when you submit your application, you can sign the documents, the SANY Finance documents, on an app on your phone, and SANY Finance continues to manage that loan over the life of the loan, so it won't get sold to another bank, and you've got a new bank. So we're making financing easy. It's fast. In our pilot program, over half of our customers were getting financed within the hour. They can sign the documents on the phone and load up the SY35 and off they go.
Can you remember going to get finance? Like I'm not going to call you old, but I'm younger than you are. But even when I started trying to get finance, far out, the rigmarole. What a word! The rigmarole would just be endless, and the forwards and backwards, meeting to sign a document in the have it like I'm out on site at this time, and the finance guy is like, "Can I come catch up with you?" And you go, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm 2 hours out of Melbourne, down in a ditch." And now it's so easy. You get these DocuSign things on your phone. You get to click, sign every page. Remember, it had to be wet signed. And I could remember having to send the contract back in with a wet signature on it, not just scanned in. It's the world's moving pretty fast these days.
Yeah, and we want to use technology to be a leader in the industry, and so it makes it easier for the customers, and it's lower cost.
It ends up lower cost.
It does, and so we're excited about SANY Finance. So if you're looking for a tractor, we've got some great offers out there, and we'll make it easier. That launch is coming, so it's not available to all our dealers yet. So that's something we're working on. Can we talk about technology for a minute? Not a sales pitch, but I think
take it away.
Not a sales pitch, but a little bit of the things that we're doing and that I'm seeing in the industry. We're introducing our telematics, EVI telematics, and root grade control, on our machines. I mean, customers, on hydraulic excavators, they expect telematics and grade control just to run their business, we're doing a great job. And, not only is Root Pilot a SANY technology, but it integrates well with customers that already have, another brand like Topcon or Trimble, So we have upstairs, I'd encourage you to do this. You can go remotely operate a 75-ton excavator, an SY70, from upstairs
I'm
in the building
terrible
here.
operating.
No, you're great.
I usually just break everything. So if you want the machine broken, absolutely, I'll go and drive it, and then everyone will look and be like, "Why did you let Starbuck drive it?"
And it's great because the machine's at our R&D center, and you can operate it right here from ConExpo. So out on the show floor, we're not customers can't operate the machines; they're static. But upstairs, you can operate a 75-ton excavator. And then we're introducing an AI service agent. You talked about AI. We're introducing a new AI service agent this week. So yeah, we're excited about the technology we're building into our machines, and more to come.
What do you see about AI and how it's going to impact the industry? I personally believe that the impact that AI is going to have is going to be monumental in some industries. In some industries, it's going to, like, there's already some companies coming out that are slashing workforce and everything else like that. But I think that construction is actually going to be quite a bit isolated from the negatives of AI and get a lot of the positives from it, because of the fact it's going to be hard for a computer to connect a pipe. That's going to be challenging. Might be some drivers that get replaced on some sort of jobs like autonomous trucks and all of that sort of stuff, especially in mining applications. But do you see AI having a huge impact? Because there's a lot of people talking about the huge impact it's going to have in tech and the corporate world, and I know a lot of the advisement agencies. There was a big one caught out in Australia that charged $10 million, and then they forgot to remove at the bottom that it was all generated by AI, and that they've been caught out. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think there's great opportunities. We talked about our customers and dealers using AI to quickly diagnose a problem, fix a problem on the machine. So when a technician goes to a machine, he can fix the problem the first time.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to drive that 2 hours, back to Melbourne. Or when he's at the machine, get the support he needs. If it's a software issue, and he doesn't have to have a part with him. The other part that's exciting and from an OEM perspective is using AI in our manufacturing processes. Look, it's going to help us build higher quality machines. When that machine comes off the line, we can use AI to make sure, that if there was a mistake made, that it's caught before it ever leaves the factory or before it even moves to the next station. So some of the work that we're doing with AI and robotics in our manufacturing facilities is exciting.
I think if anyone hasn't been to a big manufacturing facility, it is one of it's a jaw-dropping experience to say the least, because I was walking through one factory in China, and they had these robots delivering everything. But as we walked down, it was like we had a perimeter around us where the robots wouldn't enter. They'd either go around us in the front or around us in the back, and it's like you're from the future almost. It's just incredible. And gone are the days of the dirty old factories with dust in them. These places are like surgery, operating theatres with how clean they are and everything like that.
Yeah, SANY has many certified lighthouse factories, and the technology is amazing. We and we make that investment to ensure that the machine coming off the end of the assembly line meets the highest quality standards. So
I think we're probably getting closer to the end of it. However, I have one question for you. What's the one thing that SANY needs to overcome to be more successful in the worldwide market? What do you think is its big challenge of what it's going to do? Have we already touched on it?
Well,
or is it a new thing that you are going to have to look at?
So, I work in a division at SANY that's part of the global business. Outside of China, we just had a IPO in October. We raised $1.6 billion on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and that is being invested in the global business. And I think there's three things that are happening in North America, where I work, and in SANY's global business. One, we're expanding our global manufacturing footprint, and that is going to help us, generate manufacturing closer to the customers, right? It's a way for us to provide machines in a timely manner at a lower cost. Two, we're expanding our product line. We've got a fabulous global product line, but not every product's available in every market. And so, we've got 68 models in the US, with plans to expand. Our other global markets are doing the same, based on customer preferences and VOC in that territory. And third, we need to continue to build out our product support and dealer network. On the SANY side, making sure that we have parts on the shelf in country at the right time, at the right place. Excellent service information that's easily available to customers and dealers. And dealers that are capable of delivering that service promise today or tomorrow. So.
And I always finish up with asking you if there was anything that you wanted to talk about that you missed or anything like that.
Well, if you're at ConExpo, come see us. We've got some Southern hospitality here. So we're serving Southern barbecue, Georgia peanuts, sweet tea, and a beer if you'd like on our, we've got country music outside. So we want to make sure that we're very hospitable. We've got 7 zones in our booth, so I can tell you about them. And they're based on customers: construction, utility and grade control, landscaping, transportation and road, rental, product support, and then the last one is customer appreciation. So
I'm sure that's where the beer is.
That's it. It is. So come see our equipment, talk to our experts, meet with our dealers, have some barbecue. We're glad you're here.
And I'm here in the afternoon as well. We should maybe clip that one this afternoon, I think, Louis, and we'll send that out. David, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And like always, guys, like, subscribe, share, and we'll get on to the next one. Thank you very much.
You.